This one is a little difficult. I don't want to harm anybody. This happened when I was in high school. So, 40 years ago. 1976. This was my Me Too movement, and I pretty much failed in every way that you could fail. I knew this person. This person was old, really old. I don't know how old. Old. A trusted friend. And the friend he brought along was probably 6, 7, maybe 8 years older than I. But we'll get to that. This close friend was a doctor, and I had reason to go and see this doctor. This doctor was close to or known to my family, to my mother and I think my aunt. And they, and maybe my grandmother, talked about him and how he didn't seem to like women. My mother said, or spoke about how he would kind of badger her. But anyway, he was known to her, and so I went to his place of business to see him for medical reasons. And like I said, I knew him from before. And I was having a physical. And the physical was scheduled for sometime in the morning. And he called in the morning and said, could you come later? It was like 5:30, 6 o'clock, something like that. And he said things to me, and I knew by then I was gay, but I was young. I was 76. I was 19 and a virgin. And certainly not doing anything about trying to have gay sex, although I was fantasizing right and left and every guy in the street that was even remotely good looking. And he said things to me that I knew what he was at, what he was talking about. And he said things to, like, we'll have a good time. So I want you to delay this and come in late. And so it was, but I didn't know. But I said, okay, so he probably thought I was okay with what was going to happen. And he called again, and this time my mother answered, and he talked to her. And she said, now, Jamie, you're not to eat anything. You know that. And I said, yes. So my mother knew. We'll get to that. Anyway, so I drove to his place of business, and I was naked. I was having a physical, and he dismissed the nurse. And we did the physical. She'd done the blood work, and he said, now you go home, dear. You're tired. No, go on. I'll take care of it. All your stuff is done. You don't have to stay. I'll close up. It's okay. I know how to close up. So I was alone with him. And then he had this other guy come in who was much, much younger. And I don't remember what was said, but the way it started was he said, and he showed me his dick, and he didn't take it out and said, here's my dick. I was lying on the table, and then he brought in this other guy, and who was also a doctor, he said, I don't know, and I was lying on my belly, and the other guy, like I said, he showed me his dick, but he brought in the other guy, and so I was looking over at this other guy, and like, why is he here? And I'm naked, and on this table, and I look over to him, and his pants are down, or around his thighs, and there's his cock. And he's talking about how it's hard for him to get hard, and we'll have a good time, and he knows what to do, and I'm a virgin, right? And it was so strange. I said yes, and then the other guy came in closer, and I started to undo his shirt, and I said, I don't remember, but I was scared. And then so I said, I made it, and I don't remember quite all the things that were said, but I started to resist. I said, no, I'm the younger man, and that's why he was here. He must have known on some level that I was not going to be. I mean, he was old, and his belly was there, and it was gross, and his cock was out. And so the younger man held me down, and I was struggling, and he was moving towards my ass, and I don't know how it came into my head, my God, I'm going to get raped. They're going to screw me. And I was struggling, and the young man said, look what you've done. And I looked over to Dr. I'd been struggling with him. He was the one kind of holding me down. And anyway, I looked at the guy I knew, and he was fully erect. He said he had trouble, but the younger guy said, look, you're struggling. It's excited him. And I struggled, and finally the younger man let me go. I wasn't going to let them do this. And then he looked at me, and then he did the real damage of the day. He looked at me and said, I haven't really looked at you. I mean, I can get tons better. I may not be much, but I'm far better than what you are. Jesus, what am I doing here? I'm going to go out, and I may not find anybody tonight, but I can do 100 times, 1,000 times better than what you are, boy. And he left. And then the man I knew said, now you knew this was going to happen. Why did you struggle? Let me, I know what to do. I'll be gentle. I'm old. You go with a young man, he'll hurt you. You want this. And I think I'd started to get erect, but I suppose in their struggle they must have seen that. I don't know. I think I started to get erect, and he could tell or something, I don't know. But anyway, he was being kind, and he was the one that stopped the younger man when it became apparent that I was frightened. And then the younger man had said what he'd said and left, put his shirt, buttoned it back up. He was hairy. I haven't liked hairy men since that. But he said, let me show you what to do. I'll be gentle. You'll be grateful for this. And I was grateful. He'd gotten the guy out of there. I was really scared. I thought that So I thought about it. I thought, well, and I don't remember, he said, just, and he was gone down considerably since then, but I looked at his big belly, and the dick was huge, and I'd never seen a dick that big. I mean, it was huge, and to me, and I have a little dick. That's just the way it is. Or at least average, I don't know. Anyway, I said no and got dressed. And he was very pissy about it and said, if you tell anybody, I'll deny it. And I'm something about like a pillar of the community, and people know me and they'll think you're lying. And I said I wouldn't talk about it and I wouldn't tell anybody. And so I got dressed and left. And the drive home was just awful. I crashed the car almost every minute of the trip home when I got on the freeway. I could not go fast enough to be on the freeway. I kept starting to go off the road into the left lane, so I stupidly drove all the way out into the right lane to prevent that from happening, which meant that I kept weaving over into the other lanes, to the lanes left of me, until finally I got back into the right lanes, and it kept happening. So anyway, I finally got home, and Mom asked me, how was it? She knew. I mean, she knew what she didn't know, and I said it was fine, nothing. It was the physical. I didn't want her to know. And as to being me too, I mean, he had said there was nothing for me to say, that he was a pillar of the community and they'd believe him and not me. And I believed him, and I don't know who I would have told. Who? Boys didn't get raped, So I didn't know who to tell. I didn't know didn't know where to go or what to do. There was nobody to explain this to, or I didn't know how. I didn't know what to say. And I was ashamed. And his stupid dick was in my face. So, for some days, it was bad. But I slowly forgot about it. And as for the things that the younger man who held me down said to me, I'd heard them before. When I was a junior, I'd gone to France, and on the way back I sat next to a young man, and he was gay, and he'd been on the trip with me. I didn't know him well. I traveled alone to France and met up with these people from New York, and that's where he was from. And he talked to me about this place. We flew over this place when we were landing in New York. He said, that's where a bunch of gay guys are. And he talked to me and he said, you've got nothing. You need to work on your body because your face isn't going to do it for you. And that's what's important. Looks are important in this community. And he was nice he wasn't harsh. He was just laying it out for me. And so I'd heard it before. It was such a horrific thing. And so I went to college, and I heard this over and over again. But when I heard it, I didn't remember this man that held me down. and I slowly just forgot about it completely. The first kind of gay encounter I had in college was with one of the presidents of the dorm that I stayed in, and he was a gay man. And he called me in, and he thought that I was a top and tough. I tend to be versatile in the gay community. I can be bottom or top. But he thought I was a rough top, and I'm not rough, and he realized that, and he realized that I was closeted, and he had offered me everything, and that I could have anything that I wanted, and then he realized that I was really closeted and a virgin, and he was turned off, and he did nasty things to me throughout the rest of his time there, and he left me a legacy. He made it so that the dorm janitor, every time I took a shower, he was in the shower with me. So that I don't know what. I mean, I took showers at 5 o'clock in the morning so that I would not shower with other men because I was so paranoid. So what he thought he was preventing, I don't know. But I was doing a far better job by showering at 5 o'clock in the morning and then going to class at 8 and getting dressed early in the morning and going back to bed, laying in my clothes with a towel over me so that I didn't get too sweaty and going to class then. He didn't have to do that. And there was another man in college, really good looking and from Iowa. I drove back to home with him a couple of times. And he said, if only you weren't you're just a little bit too effeminate and too out there for me. And, when I look at you, you're really not that much to look at anyway. So, and then there was another young man who was nice. And he said, he was an actor. And he said, I thought that I was going to be the one to show you what to do. And you're not much to look at. And again, he was nice about it. I thought I was going to show you, but now over the spring break, I found somebody, so I can't do anything with you. But again, he said, you're not much to look at. So by the time I left college and by the time I got to graduate school, I knew I wasn't much to look at. I had offers in graduate school. Mostly the main one that was most troubling was from this couple, and I was too much of a nice boy to do a couple. Although the young man was very nice looking. But again, when I turned them down, the woman was really angry about not going home taking me home. And she said, you're not that much to look at, and we're offering you, the both of us, and we're nice looking. So anyway, again, I did not think of that young man. I totally forgot. So through the years, that was reinforced, and I dealt with it. I was going to be an actor. I was a character actor, and I wasn't going to be the hero guy, the lead, the guy that gets the girl, which was fine, because I generally wanted the guy that normally gets the girl, because I wanted to be the girl, kind of. So, anyway, came a time when I was offered, do you have anything in your past to explain kind of not nice behavior? And I didn't remember this incident at all. If I had, it might have gotten me out of things, some bad things, but I didn't remember. I didn't start to remember until then. It was said, if you have something like this, and it jolted something. I didn't remember it completely, but the first thing that came back, really, and I can't quite tell you when, because that was some 25 years ago, was the ride home. And then his Dick, and I didn't remember the other guy or what he said for long after. And then over the years, slowly it came back, but my family didn't want to hear that I was gay, and I told my mother about the doctor, and she didn't want to hear it, and I just thought that was her not dealing with my being gay, and not wanting to hear that, and okay to be gay as long as I did nothing. And then the Me Too movement started, and I don't know how I remembered the guy, but I made him into something really evil, that I would find out about him, and he would have raped and murdered people. But I don't know. It's just that when he said it, and I think because of what was going on, it hurt so much, and it damaged me. It probably damaged me in ways that I can't even know. I haven't ever really looked at it. So Me Too happened, and I vaguely remembered this, and then remembered this, and I started watching Les Miserables on PBS with Dominic West, and I remember reading Les Miserables, and I started thinking about it, and I know I read in French a section of the Bishop's Candlesticks, and I thought that I had read about Cosette and Jean Valjean being together, their first time really being together. And I guess that was in a convent. I thought it was when they were in Paris, and that it was a lovely time that they grew close together. Maybe it's when I thought it was their first time in Paris. But I don't think I read Les Miserables. I just looked at it. I thought that I had, but I don't think I did, looking at it. Except that I did read the Bishop's Candlesticks in French, in a French class, I think in high school. Maybe in college, I don't know. Anyway, so I had, thinking that I had read it, and that this time that Jean Valjean and Cosette had together was lovely, and that they grew really close, and that they read and did things together. I don't know where I got that. Maybe I read about it somewhere. I don't know. Anyway, that started me thinking, and that's when I started thinking that the guy was a murderer. But now I just remembered that he did a lot to murder my spirit. And though I heard those things later on, I think because of where I was and what was happening, that it was so devastating that he couldn't even be bothered to finish the rape, because I just wasn't worth it. And he listened to the older man and left. Recently I watched a program called The Sun, and a character in this, the Lois Smith character, makes up a story about her, or participates in a story about the death of her grandfather. And she says she came to believe it even though she knows it wasn't true. I know that this happened to me. It's taken me a long time to remember it. And I may not be, I don't know where I would have gone. I couldn't have had a Me Too moment back then. They wouldn't have let me. Let's face it. Everybody would have been disgusted with me and upset with me, and I wouldn't have gotten anywhere. So, but I know that this happened to me, and it damaged me. And yes, the older man and his big fat belly and his big fat cock were upsetting. And I got there because I trusted him and went in for a physical. But I thought about looking him up. I know his name. I don't remember the younger man's name. He was introduced to me, but I forgot his name. I'm not good with names. And it was emotional and bad. But I'm not going to go after him. He was old. And as for the younger man who was, 5 to 10 years older than me, supposedly a young doctor, I always thought of him when I did start thinking about him as an intern. But it was a private practice, so he couldn't have been an intern. So maybe he wasn't a doctor at all. I don't know. But there's a good chance, because he was not that many years older than me, that he died of AIDS. So, was holding me down and saying despicable things to me? Did he deserve to die? To waste away? To have lovemaking turn him into a wasted thing and die slowly, or maybe fastly? I don't know. I don't think so. I don't think so. And I don't want vengeance. I don't know how I would get it. Honest to God, I don't. And it wouldn't do anything for me. And I don't want the old man hurt. I don't know what his reputation is. And I thought of looking up to see if there were other young men. Because, the Me Too movement is outing people that have done things like this. I don't want that. I'm not brave enough to look. I don't know if there are other young men out there that this happened to. Maybe I'll look someday. But it won't get me anything. It won't make me be a part of anything or make me feel part of something, so... Anyway, that's my Me Too movement, or my Me Too moment. Or now is, I guess. So, there.